Daniel James, and welcome to the show this week. Well, do I have a guest for you? Before I even introduce this legendary lady who is more than a survivor, I'm just going to throw some names at you of people that this lady has worked with. Ike Turner, Tina Turner, Mick Jagger, Rod Stewart, Ronnie Lane, Steve Marriott, Barry Gibb, Eric Clapton, to name but a few. What a fantastic career, nearly 60 years in a very, very tough industry. She's not only still here, she's got the paperback version of her book, Soul Survivor, out right now. The hardback came out last year and was really well received. Let's say a huge welcome. P.P. Arnold, welcome to the show.
Hello, Daniel. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, what a lovely lady. Can I just say, I was going to ask you about this Phil Spector thing, because I was kind of going to say, what was he like in your opinion? So that didn't quite work. You just did some recording and he wasn't there.
No, I wasn't a part of that recording of the River Deep Mountain High. It was a bit, it was a lot of politics going on back then. And so the River Deep Mountain High album, half of it is produced by Ike Turner and half by Phil Spector, because Phil Spector didn't want Ike Turner to be anywhere near the studio when he recorded Tina. So Ike wouldn't let us, Ikettes, be in the studio with Phil. So I'm like on the album, but not on the actual River Deep Mountain High track. I'm on the tracks that Ike produced, but I didn't get a chance to make that Phil Spector session.
Well, listen, you work with everybody else, and I just want to remind our viewers, of course, P.P. Arnold was an Ikette with Ike and Tina Turner. What a start to the industry after the gospel singing. And as I say, just an amazing career. Let's go right back to that first job with Ike and Tina Turner. How was that for you?
Well, it wasn't planned. That's for sure. I never had an ambition to be a professional singer or to be in the music industry at all. I was a young girl who had gotten myself in a bit of a pickle, as they might say. Yeah, I was in a very abusive teen marriage. I had 2 children. I worked 2 jobs, and I was just like dealing with my situation. But one Sunday, when I would normally have been in church, in the past, because I'm born into a family of gospel singers, so I've been singing all my life in church. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't going to church anymore, really, because back in those days when a young girl got pregnant, it was like all the hypocrites, would come out. So I think I was an embarrassment to my family. So they didn't force me to go, and I didn't want to go because of like all the tongues wagging and everything. So anyway, I'm in the laundromat doing my laundry and getting ready for the week ahead. My kids, my mother would take care of my kids while I worked and everything. And I said a prayer. And so I said a prayer and asked God to show me a way out of this situation that I was in. And I'd go back in the house, and about an hour later, the phone rings. And it's a girlfriend, Maxine Smith, who was an ex-girlfriend of my brother's, and another soul singer, Gloria Scott. You might know of Gloria Scott. Might have heard of her. Brilliant singer. They had this audition to go to be Ikettes, because Ike Turner had 2 sets of Ikettes. He had one set that he would send on the road with the Dick Clark show. And then there was the group of girls that sang with the Review. Now the Review girls were leaving, so Gloria wanted that gig with the Review and Maxine, and the other girl that was supposed to go to the audition with them didn't show up. She was also an ex-girlfriend of my brother's. My brother was a busy boy. right? So, so they called me out of desperation. Please, you got to help me because Maxine knew that I sang.
He was listening. He was listening.
Hey, man, God answers prayer. I do believe, because he still answers prayers every day, because that's how I got here. A prayer brought me in, and it's prayers keep me going.
So you got the gig with
I got the gig, and we go, and they call me, and I say I can't go, and they say, well, we're coming to get you anyway. Bam! They hang up the phone, and half an hour later, they're standing on the doorstep, banging on my door. So I lie and tell my husband that I'm going to the shops, and next thing I know, I'm in Ike Tina Turner's living room singing, dancing in the streets. So, so we finished the audition. We sang Dancing in the Street, and Gloria did something else. I don't know. I can just follow. I got the good ear, so I just follow whatever they told me to do. And Tina goes, right, girls, you got the gig. So I go, oh, no, not me. I can't go. I got to go home. My husband's going to kick my butt when I get home because I should have been home 2 hours ago. So Tina says, well, if you're going to get your butt kicked for nothing, why don't you ride up to Fresno with us and at least see the show? Well, here I am in this day that has taken on a life of its own. Tina Turner, this goddess angel that God has sent, answered my prayer and sent to me. And I had really messed up my life. I hadn't had any fun. I never had fun as a teenager. I had fun with my babies. They were beautiful babies. But as a young girl, I didn't have fun. I never went anywhere. So I thought, yeah, she's right. I am going to get in trouble when I get home. So I might as well just go with this goddess and see where it leads me. And so, I went to Fresno with them, which was like 300 miles from Los Angeles. I'm from LA. I grew up in South Central LA. I had never even been to Hollywood. And there I was in Fresno at this like club, really happening, like really just funky down club in Fresno, California, seeing Ike Tina Turner for the first time. Everybody's going like, yeah, you got to come with us. You got to be an Ikette. I'm going, hey, man, my mind is just on what's going to happen to me when I get back to LA at 6 o'clock in the morning after leaving home at 12 that afternoon, right? So I go and they go like, well, we'll go with you. I go like, no, don't go with me. That's only going to make it worse. So I put my key in the door and he's there waiting for me. And bam, he hit me in the head. And it's like he knocked some sense into me, really, because I remembered my prayer. And my prayer, that morning, I didn't have a way out. And I asked for a way out, and so God gave me a way out. And it was a bit of a bumpy road there. But, 24 hours later, I was in Ikettes.
You end up in London?
Yeah, I was on the road with Ike Tina for 2 years, traveling the Chitlin circuit, like in the middle of the whole civil rights revolution.
What was Ike's ego like at that time? Was he easy to...
Ike's ego, Ike Turner ego, that guy was a control freak. He controlled everything. He was like, in those days, you had these like band leaders like Ike Turner and Otis Redding and James Brown, those guys, they were like street guys because Black guys, they had their own scene, because of all the racism, they had to depend on themselves. And those guys were all street hustlers, really,
So when they got something, they hung on to it.
Yeah, they were deep, but they were all great musicians. really talented musicians. And of course, like there's so many talented musicians and singers. And, Ike had a big old black book. So if you messed up, anything that you did that he didn't like, you got fined. And if he didn't really like you, you got fired. Because he had, there was just like, singers a dime a dozen in America. Everybody can sing.
So you must have been a good girl for 2 years because you hung around.
Well, I was.
Or were you just very clever?
It wasn't that, for me to be an Ikette, it was a job. It was the way that situation helped me get away from the domestic situation that I was in. I had 2 children, so I just did my job. I was very shy. I was very introverted. I was a young, damaged girl, but I loved to sing. So I had this opportunity, and what a blessing to be on the stage every night with Tina Turner.
How was it working with Tina?
Sorry?
How was it working with Tina?
Just absolutely incredible, amazing. Everything you hear about her is true. She was always simply the best. That woman was amazing. Her energy, her enthusiasm, her love of it, her drive, just her beautiful, beautiful disposition, to be with, going through what you've heard that she went through, all the abuse and everything.
Well, there's parallels between your life and hers, isn't there?
Just positive,
Yeah.
Just a beautiful, 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 talented woman.
So after your 2 years with Ike and Tina, you're in London and you decide to stay. And you
Now that's where we go again. We got to go back to how destiny works in all of this, right?
Tell me.
We go to England. Tina records the River Deep Mountain High track with Ike Turner, and it completely flopped in America because, the whole racist situation. The black stations wouldn't play it because it was too white. The white stations didn't play it because it was too black. So it flopped. But it was a big hit in the UK. So I just, another blessing. I just happened to be with them when they were invited to come to the UK to tour with the Rolling Stones on the Rolling Stones 1966 tour. So yeah, I was an Ikeette and I was free. I was free for the first time in my life. After I left my husband, you always had to deal with Ike. He was a horrible, horrible guy, and he was always after me, but I had a boyfriend in the band afterwards, a trumpet player named Gabriel Flemings, who kind of protected me from Ike. But I caught Gabriel with another woman the night before we flew to London. So I arrived in London a free soul.
Good for you.
For the first time in my life in the middle of swinging London, and I hadn't been a teenager, and it was just like, wow, it was just absolutely incredible to be in this whole different world, this sort of more integrated. Sure, there was racism here at that time, but, in the music world, I came out of the civil rights revolution in America into the rock and roll revolution in the middle of the mid 60s. So, it was like totally integrated, cosmopolitan youth. Everybody was young and it was just exciting, like all the art, all the fashion, all the music. They were really into the music from America. We were like, wow, we were shocked. Not only were the English people into the American music, those musicians were incredible. They could play the blues. They were like walking blues dictionaries. Like I grown up with it. Growing up, me and my brothers and sisters, to us, the blues was the old folks' music. So we grew up with it. My mother and father, they were from East Texas, all my family and all the older people, they knew how to party. So there was always parties. And, I'd heard all of that music all my life, but I was into Motown and
you felt comfortable being in London more than in the States.
Comfortable was just that's I was just like just having the best time of my life.
And you started recording solo stuff, and you were doing backing vocals for people. You're doing your own stuff.
Another blessing, Ike was like, he was not happy about me being so happy because he had no control over me. And suddenly here I was, very shy, introverted Pat, going out to discotheques with Mick Jagger, this white boy. I had never been around. So I had never been in an integrated society, hung out with white folks, as we would say. And here I was having a ball. Mick was really funny. He would come to our dressing room, and when we would show him routines, we would show him how to do the pony and all of those things. And as you can see, he just got the pony and ran with it.
He's still running with it now.
Pony, there was no stopping Mick Jagger.
The fantastic thing is you've got these amazing stories in your book about life with Ike and Tina, and then your life in London. And I read that list of people that you'd worked with. And apart from Phil Spector, it's a who's who of the industry because everybody respected your voice.
That's right, and we were all young. We were all kids. The 60s was a great time to be young. It was a great time to be in music. Everybody was excited. I was here, Madeline Bell, my big sister, Madeline Bell, she was already here. And so we were like the real, we were the authentic soul singers in the UK. Everybody was into the music, into the American music. We had that authentic sound that everyone wanted on their records. So, and then I had, even though I'm an American, I've always been produced by British producers. So my sound is really quite unique. It's a fusion of soul and pop, so I can really sing, especially my early stuff was very pop, everybody in the States thought I was very lame. And I wasn't really sure about my music at that time. I thought, wow, this is kind of a little bit poppy. It wasn't as soulful and da-da-da-da-da. But later, on, I realized, just how authentic a sound that I had been a part of being created. Even now, my sound is totally authentic. Nobody sounds like Pee. You know what I mean? People, a lot of you hear lots of all the singers sound alike today, really. Back in the day, everybody was different. You had so many great singers and, Aretha and Gladys and Dion and
you put a record on
and Gladys Knight. They were all different. Nobody copied anybody. So, and then I have a definitely unique sound in my voice that they can't copy.
Well, you put a record on in the 60s and 70s and you knew who it was instantly, whether it was Aretha or Gladys or you or Madeline or even Dusty Springfield,
Exactly. Everybody was unique. Yeah. Dusty and Lulu and Sandy Shaw and whoever was, everybody was
Cilla
unique.
Black, everyone had their own sound.
That's right. That's right. But see, like, I think what happened, see, like, back in those days as well, it was like there wasn't, like now I have this whole thing where it says everybody wants to be a superstar. So, everybody wants to be in the music industry. And so the way the industry is now, that's just like everybody wants to do it. So everybody copies everybody. But it's kind of similar, like back in the day, like the really hardcore, nobody sounds like Tina. Tina's got her unique sound too. And Tina is just like, amazing, because not only was she a great soul singer, she sang the blues, she sang R&B, and then she's like the rock and roll queen. It's like there's no other Tina Turner. Plus she could dance.
Yes. Now look,
really
getting back to your music, I love when you talk about the combination of the English music, the British music producers, and your American soul and blues and you think about it, Eric Clapton, Rod Stewart, Mick Jagger, Steve Marriott, Ronnie Lane. You put those white boys and their rock and roll with this soul goddess, and it is a very rare combination, isn't it?
Well, yeah, Steve Marriott was a bad boy. That guy could sing.
Well, you dated him for a while, didn't you?
Yeah, we worked together. We did a lot of things together.
Well, you did a TV show over here called Pop Quiz one year as well.
Oh yeah, and he was being very, very cheeky on that show.
The third was it Natalie Cole?
I would find it absolutely right.
That was like after coming back, that was in the 80s, that Pop Quiz thing. Steve and I and the Faces and everybody, we all grew up together, and the Small Faces and we were on the same record label, Immediate Records, and they were really into soul as well. They were into soul and Stax. Really, 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 Steve Marriott, like he had grown up listening to Ray Charles. His grandmother had given him a Ray Charles, so he was really into gospel. So we hit it all straight away, and we both had a lot of energy, and we just worked together really, really well. They were my brothers. They were my British soul brothers, They were more inspired by me and glad that I was around more than maybe the Stones and everybody, because I wasn't really an artist at that time. I was a singer, but I didn't know who I was as an artist. I was just, I've been given this opportunity by Mick Jagger and Andrew Oldham to stay in the country and signed to Andrew's Immediate record label, which I did. And then, of course, how fortunate was I to be blessed by Cat Stevens, wrote this beautiful song, First Cut is the Deepest.
Oh, what a song. And the way you sing it. Wow. Tell me about the day in the studio when you cut that song.
Well, once again, I have to go back to talking about how young and how shy and how kind of emotional I was, after coming out of early abuse situation, and then to be in the UK suddenly by myself. I had stayed by myself and I didn't really know it. And I was around the English people. I had never even been around American whites. So I was like really, really kind of shy. But that song with Andrew, luckily, Andrew Oldham, what an amazing manager he was. It's unfortunate what happened to Immediate, but how lucky was I to have a manager who was just like so creative and so magnetic. He was like a real entrepreneur, creative guy. He had that vision. He knew the industry. So like he would, we would just get together and brainstorm. And in those days, singers, there were writers. All the writers would send all the singers songs. And you would sort of like have a brainstorming meeting and play different things, and you go, oh, I like this. And, he never forced me to sing anything that I didn't like. But when Mike Hurst brought First Cut is the Deepest to the table, it was that song. It was as if Steve wrote that song for me. That's his name, Steve. I call him Steve, but it was Cat, and now he's,
Yusef now.
Yeah, Yusef. So, that was my life. I had lived that First Cut. So I always say about that song, there's a lot of covers, Rod Stewart covered it 10 years after me. And then Sheryl Crow did it. I don't know if Sheryl Crow was even born when I did it, but my original version, there's all these covers, but I think and even Cat Stevens says that it's the definitive version. I think it's because of just sensitivity of my version that.
Well, you were young. It was authentic. So it was your life. You were young, and that came out in the song.
And what a beautiful song. I mean, I've sung that song thousands of times. And every time I sing it, it's an emotional experience for me. And I work on those songs. I keep telling people I'm really, really I am so happy to be a retro artist and have so many great songs in my catalog.
So that's the end of part one of my interview with P.P. Arnold, but we couldn't leave it there. I hope you'll join me for part two, because P.P. has so many stories just for you.